Cool. Congratulations on the show again.
Thank you very much.
It's such a fantastic show. I wanted to start with the character for you because I know this is a character that's lived with you because you play the video games, all that kind of stuff. But I can imagine you do a lot of prep to play the character, but when you put the eyes in and the hair on and the sword and the costume and everything, he must just kind of appear. So it must kind of make your job slightly easier because he just comes to you so naturally.
To a degree, yes. I mean, I think a character like this, when you've lived with him in your head for as long as I have anyway, and then you have the opportunity to play, he's already there in part, and so the next bit is the physicality of it. And so once, as you say, once those lenses go in and the wig's on and the makeup's on and you look a certain way, that's just the final piece, that final step in, and then I start moving differently, I start walking differently, and it just becomes a completely different animal. And so yeah, that is the final ingredient.
Yeah, and in terms of, obviously, I know you play video games, and it's been so hard for so many people over the years to make a video game film. You know, there's so many that don't quite work.
Yeah.
But do you feel like doing it as a series, doing it in this platform where you can be slightly expansive, particularly with something like The Witcher, where there's so much mythology, that works better, and that's maybe the way that for some of these games, maybe that's a way in rather than a 90-minute film?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. No. What I would say is this is based. I mean, has a source material, which is books, to draw from, and so there's a story which is already there. And while this is Lauren's version of that story, this is more so a book IP than it is a game IP. Yes, there is a huge fan base from the games, which is based upon the books. And so I think that is the trick. Cracking the code as far as turning games into live action is still a tricky thing, because the one thing about games is that it's dealer's choice. And that makes things tricky when it comes to watching someone else's vision and someone else's product making all the choices for you.
Yeah, and in terms of obviously the show, I mean, people obviously recognise you, but there's this incredible ensemble around you. I've just heard Kim's unforgettable laugh in the hallway just then. It helps so much to kind of round out this world and bring this mythology to life. It must be great to go to work every day with so many amazing people, and some people you probably don't even get to work with that probably you would like to get to work with at some point.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, there's a whole other side to this story, which I've barely even met them. We've seen them sort of in passing and sort of waved at each other sort of as we walk around, but never really had a chance to work together. And so as time goes on, I'm looking forward to working with them. But the people who I have worked with, an absolute pleasure, absolute joy. And Kim especially, he and I worked very hard at making sure that these male characters were three-dimensional, rather than just sort of, as I've said before, these roughy-tufty snowmen living in the mountains who are grumpy and just like killing stuff. That there's actually emotions to these guys, and we really tried to build something that wasn't on the page by just putting some soulfulness in there, and rather than it just be conflict, it was actually about a connection, a deep, meaningful, soulful connection. And Kim is so wonderful at that. As you say, he's got this very recognizable laugh, and he's got a real energy to him, and he loves his connection with nature, which I think is a perfect thing to add to The Witches.
Yeah, fantastic. I was going to ask you about Superman, but my time's up, so never mind.
Never mind.
Next time. Thanks so much for your time. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey You Guys!